Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Fear the Walking Dead video. So I wanted to talk about something here. It was sort of a reveal, I guess, in last night's episode of Fear the Walking Dead. And I wanted to get my thoughts on it because, obviously we do have some news here from the showrunner. There was an interview that he did actually, and he talked about Alicia's potential return, or at least the sort of reveal in last night's episode, and talked about some stuff with that. So I want to get some thoughts on that, and then just, give some thoughts on just the storyline here in general. So before we go any further, make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. And also, I apologize for not having a lot of videos out over the last couple of days. It's just a lot of, honestly, I've just been really busy, and there's been a few things I have to do. Like today, I have to get a bunch of videos done for other things, and then I have to, clean up my backyard and everything, and just sort of get ready for winter and all of that. But starting tomorrow or potentially the next day around there, I should have about 2 or 3 videos a day. So yeah, I'll be back to normal. And then obviously, right now we're sort of, honestly, the hype for Fear the Walking Dead, as much as I wasn't the biggest fan of, or I'm not really the biggest fan of just where the show's been, it's kind of exciting to see the show end. I'm really interested in seeing how the show is going to end, and just, I don't know, just to sort of close a chapter, or I guess close the book on this show, and just be like, that was Fear the Walking Dead. And obviously, I think overall it's been a mess of a show, I would say, overall, because of the fact that I just think that it's never really had a proper storyline at all. So it's been, it's one of those things that I think is definitely very unfortunate, but there is still parts to Fear the Walking Dead that I do enjoy. And so it's obviously going to be exciting. And also, seeing the sanctuary and a lot of little things like that, just seeing what happens to our characters and how it can set up spin-offs and all that. There is so much there to obviously get very excited about. So let's focus on Alicia and stuff, because obviously that was the big one, right? At the end of episode 7, Troy was there. First of all, really crazy to have Troy back, and honestly, super awesome. I honestly, looking back at that scene, it makes some sense that he could have survived. It wasn't necessarily getting hit by the hammer where I'm like, that makes no sense, because if you look at him, it's like, yeah, obviously, Madison did do damage, and he is fine. To me, it was more the fact that, that area was flooding, and so he should have drowned. He was knocked out, he should have drowned or something like that. So I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if we're going to go back and see what happened, kind of thing, but his return was definitely very cool. And, he said that, he saw Alicia and basically told Madison that he killed her. And the way he said it in that scene, I was like, he's lying totally. And so that's sort of what I'm thinking right now, is that he's lying. Alicia is still alive, and that she just got away. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I do think she just got away. And that arm is just sort of what he took. And I will say, I really like the idea in the scene where Madison sees the arm and she's kind of looking at it like, what's this? Like, what is this, right? I love that attention to detail, just because of the fact that, yeah, she would never know what that was. And I was honestly getting ready to rant about that if she knew what that arm was. But no, as soon as Madison was just kind of looking at it like, is this Alicia's? And she was looking around, and Strand knew right away, right? So it was just very cool to see Madison be like, what is this kind of thing? And yeah, that was the reveal here. That's sort of the big storyline here, is that Alicia was apparently killed by Troy, and now Madison wants her revenge. And so that is essentially what the next, 5 episodes are going to be about, is Madison wants to kill Troy. So that is basically what the second half here is based on, is whether or not Alicia is actually alive, and sort of Madison getting her revenge. And I will say, in terms of just ending the show and stuff and giving it a little bit more purpose, I do kind of like that idea, because I don't know how else you would end Fear the Walking Dead. Focusing on Padre, focusing on certain things? I don't think you could really do that. You kind of have to focus on what makes Fear the Walking Dead very important. And I guess the Clark family and focusing on something like that just makes some sense. I would prefer a different story overall, for sure, but it's also it is exciting to see whether or not Alicia is going to be returning. And that is the thing that I will say with this, is that it really feels like she's going to. And so that's why I titled the video, is Alicia returning in the finale? Because I do think she is likely going to. She might actually be a reveal in episode 5, or I guess not episode 5, episode 11, right? Because it is a 2-part finale. So if it's a 2-part finale, she could appear at the very, very end. And then she's just in that last episode, and then it just ends in some way, kind of thing, right? That's really how I picture this show ending now, is I do think Alicia's going to return. Because if she doesn't, I don't really understand how you can really introduce this idea, get people really excited, and then just not deliver on it, right? Where she doesn't show up in the end. And imagine if, all this hype here, all of a sudden it's revealed in the last episode or 2 that, oh, she actually is dead. She's actually gone. it would just be so sad. It would be so sad, so tragic. And I think if you're the Walking Dead fan, you would have to be so upset that this is how the Clark family story ended, is that Alicia's actually just gone. Like, that is something that I wouldn't want. You know, there's only really two options that I would be, I think, excited about. And that is, I mean, first of all, one, I think it would be amazing if she just came back, if she was just a part of the show, and then you just kind of ended that story there or whatever. Or two, Madison finds out some proof that she is alive somewhere and then is going to go look for her. Kind of like with Daryl, you know. With Daryl, it was sort of the same thing. Like, if he reunited with Rick in that last episode, it would have been, you know, obviously really cool. It wouldn't have made sense story-wise. Like, if the last season was all about trying to find Rick, then that could make a lot of sense, right? If in the end they actually reunited, then that makes sense. But that wasn't the focus, so it makes more sense to end it like this. With Fear, you know, the focus is just solely on, is Alicia alive? And I do think she is. I really, when you look at the scene, I do think that Troy is actually lying, because the way he says it is like he's almost forcing it out kind of thing. Like he's trying to say something that's going to affect her. And I think that's just the actor, because I think the actor is a brilliant actor. So I think that's the way I read this scene anyways here. And the showrunners also said the same thing. You know, in order for us to see if Troy's telling the truth or not, we're going to have to wait and see what happens here in the season. And I thought those comments were very, very interesting, just because like that is something right there where I'm like, okay, so this really is a part of the storyline. And that's why I really I honestly don't think that this last season was like properly planned. And I really feel like the showrunners thought that they might have had like another season or two to go. I mean, maybe not, but like they are saying that they knew this was the final season. And if that's true, I just think it's insane, because I don't know why you would go in the areas that you went in, because you're rushing through so much here in season 8. You could have introduced a lot of this in season 7 and made season 7 way more entertaining, because season 7 was so slow. It was one of the worst seasons ever. You could have done a lot of the Padre arc in season 7, made it way more epic, and just like fleshed a lot of that out. But obviously in the final season here, like they rushed through a lot of it in 6 episodes. Yes, Padre is still playing a role because that's sort of where they're living, but it's not really playing a role anymore. Like they rushed through it so fast, right? Just to be able to get to this last final arc here. Because that also would mean that when Alicia left the show at the end of season 7, that you knew that season 8 was the last, you know, season, and that you would have to write something in the story to make sense, that have it make sense that Alicia would return, and that the second half of season 8 would focus on her return kind of thing. Like, I don't know. I just don't really buy it. I personally don't believe it. I really feel like the final season thing came out of nowhere kind of thing, and they were like, oh, it's only going to be 12 episodes. Okay, so we'll do 6 episodes here. We'll focus on this. And I think the way it was structured is definitely very smart. I do actually like that. Like the first 6 episodes were focused on Madison and Morgan, and then you sort of said your goodbyes to Morgan in that era of Fear. And then the second half, the last 6 episodes, which is really like the end of Fear the Walking Dead entirely, goes back to focusing on the Clark family. I like that. I think that makes a lot of sense, and the way they've handled it in terms of just the story arcs, I think makes so much sense. So I am a huge fan of that for sure. I've talked about the Padre arc, not being a fan of it. I really am just not a fan of the Padre arc. I think, honestly, the best arc that this show had, I mean, there was some interesting stuff in season 1, 2, and 3 of Fear. Season 6, the whole thing with the end is the beginning. And just that, like, I think that was honestly really amazing. The whole storyline with Teddy, and then Dakota, you know, killing John, and all of that, it was honestly just insane writing. Like, that story was so good. Like, if you think Fear the Walking Dead isn't that great, like, you know, it's not that great anymore. But if you go back to season 6, like just a couple of years ago, it was so good. And that was coming off of season 5, which was literally the worst season ever. And it got so much backlash online. If you remember, after season 5 aired, there was so much backlash online, because the show just completely, it like failed really bad, because you're coming off of season 3, which was a good season. You go to season 4, so many frustrations there with the way you killed Nick off, which was kind of out of their control, I know, because the actor wanted to leave. So I do understand that. That's fine. But still, the direction of season 4 overall was so horrible. And you also chose to kill Madison off as well, which was like the worst thing to do. You kill Nick and Madison off? That made no sense. Season 5 continued that trend, got really bad, but then 6 honestly was probably one of the best seasons of the entire series. I still think season 3 was definitely better, but season 6 is for sure up there. And then 7 came back down. It was just as bad as season 4 and 5. And then 8 so far is a little bit better, but it's not that much better. Like, season 8 is watchable. You laugh at the dialogue and the scenes happening and stuff, because it does seem very cringy in my opinion, but it's at least watchable. I can at least watch it, and I'm interested in some of the storylines because it is the ending. And that was sort of the same vibe that I had for All Out War, of The Walking Dead. At the end of season 8, like the second half of season 8, I was like, well, this is a little more entertaining because I know we're coming to the end of this arc. So I'm really interested in seeing how this ends. And so I started to like it a little bit more towards the end. So, focusing on Alicia and her potential return here to close everything out is definitely a very smart decision. And I do like that. As much as Fear has had its issues, I think coming back around to this, I think is definitely smart and it's a decent way to end the show. Yeah, I might have to do a video on Fear the Walking Dead at some point, maybe after all this is over, just to sort of, do a general review on the show and be like, so here are my thoughts on this show, here's where it went wrong, here are the storylines that made no sense, this and that, and just, what I really wanted from the show. And we can't really say that now because we don't know what's happening. We don't know if Madison and Alicia, if they do reunite in the finale, are they going to go to a different spinoff? Or is it going to end where we learn that Dwight and Sherry are going to Dead City, or maybe Madison finds out proof that Alicia is in New York or something like that. Like, there's a lot of little things there where I'm just like, we have to wait and see. So I'll have to wait to do a review, obviously, just to see how all of it plays out. So maybe I'll do that like this December or something. But yeah, I think that for sure, Alicia's return, I think it's happening. I really do believe it's happening. And I'm okay with the disappointment if it doesn't happen. Like if it ends up being a thing where she's dead and that's it, then I'll laugh at that point. I don't know. I do think it's kind of insane to already be coming back to this like a year ago or whenever it was. I think it was a little over a year ago. We were already talking about the fact that, wow, she left the show. It was so shocking. Alicia's done and off the show. So what are they going to do for season 8, 9, and 10 or whatever? And then all of a sudden, the next season, it's the last season. And then it's just like, okay, so now she might return in the last episode. Just really honestly insane. But I'm going to leave it here. Do you think Alicia will be returning in the finale? Do you think Troy is telling the truth, or do you think he's lying? Post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.